Hi, and welcome to Acting is Everything. Today, I'm going to be talking about the kids in the business. And I have an expert with me. She's featured in the book I write, Acting is Everything, and I have a long interview with her. I definitely need experts in this field because, except for my grandson, what we'll talk about later, I really don't know that much about the kids' business. So here's my expert, Tracy Martin.
Hi, Judy. And thank you for putting me in your book, and thank you for writing the book. It saves me a lot of talking to new parents that don't know about the biz. I say, here, read Judy's book.
So how do people find you? How you teach privately, you teach classes,
yes.
And you were just telling me you teach a teen class.
Yes.
And so talk to me about the kids in the business. It's a short time.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's a short time that kids are in the business.
Yes.
Because they
grow up.
Yeah. So tell me.
Yes. And they all don't successfully make that transition into adult acting, nor do they always want to. But first of all, your child needs to have an incredible amount of passion. The best students I have are the students who beg their parents when they're watching TV, please mom, please dad, that's what I want to do. Then the parents find me. I do a little evaluation, half hour, give them a cold reading, give them some adjustments, which means some direction, see how they take it, and I can tell within the first 5 or 10 minutes if they have what's necessary to continue with this business. But they definitely need passion. I work by referral only, parents talk, agents, managers, that kind of thing. So that's how people find me usually.
And now, one of the valuable things that I did for my grandson, Jackson, was he was going to, he had the passion, and he was going to interview with an agent, and I brought him to you to do like a pseudo meeting.
Right.
Because the kids, when they go in for a business meeting, they don't take their parents into the office, no matter how old they are.
That's right. And I try to tell parents, I have a very comfortable environment. I work out of my home. The parents stay in the living room. I bring the kids back into the office, and when the kid doesn't want to go, I let the parents know this is how it's going to be, so maybe you want to reconsider this. But I do what's called agent prep, where I'll do a monologue with a kid, a commercial, a cold reading, and work on interview skills to get them confident and feeling prepared for their agent meeting.
So what do they have to do? Now, how I think about what you do is you take a picture of your kid 4x6 and you send it to agents, and if you get a interest, and then you get a meeting, because children have to be represented, correct?
Correct. Children have to be represented. But I always say, in this town, don't take a meeting unless you know your child is prepared, because some agents won't see you for another 6 months, might not see you for another year. They'll make a note on their paperwork, and they'll say, go away, go get some classes, some training, and come back. So it's, you know, there's this idea that you want kids to stay natural, so don't send them to acting coaches, but a good coach will keep you natural and will teach you how to read a script. I had a little child once, poor thing, came to me and they said, you know, we weren't supposed to, mom said, we're not supposed to have coaching, but I just feel something's wrong. Well, yes, she read the stage directions out loud as, now turn right, you know. She had how could she know?
Right.
Without training, how could she possibly know?
Right.
So that's what I do. I help them to understand how to read scripts, how to break down copy, and make them feel confident.
So how old do kids get? I mean, you see babies in business, in commercials. And
right. I start privates at age 4, believe it or not.
And so what about before that?
I don't do that. I'm sure you could find somebody.
But how if someone wanted to be in the business?
Well, usually if you're under 2, usually they're going to want twins or triplets, just because of how long they can work on camera as far as child labor laws go.
I see.
So if you have twins or triplets that are really cute, yeah, take their snapshots and get them out to the agents, but please make sure you have a flexible schedule so you can, you know, a lot of these calls people don't realize, you could get called by your agent at 11 a.m. to be at a 3 p.m. audition.
And you have to be there.
And you have to be there. Sometimes you get calls the night before. I have 8 and 9-year-olds that have to do all their homework, do their chores and learn 9 pages of sides for an audition the next day. It's not easy.
So they have to learn their sides for their auditions.
Yes. They have to, sides being the sample material from the script, the sample scenes that they're going to audition with. And yeah, they want to be familiar with them, so they're making as much eye contact as possible and listening and reacting. The big mistake I see is that children actually have no idea what they're saying. They're experts at looking you in the eyes and saying the line convincingly, and you think, that's not coming out right. Then you'll say, do you know what that means? And when they tell you, it's completely the opposite. So once you explain to them what they're actually saying, then they say it correctly. But a lot of times writers are writing jokes and innuendos that adults get, or they're just writing in such a way that the kids actually don't understand what they're saying.
So how does, let's say someone has sent out their pictures, they've had their coaching, they've gotten the agent, and they're on their first audition or their first several auditions.
Right.
What does the parent do on those auditions? Because they pick them up from school, they have to clean up their face, they have to bring snacks.
Well, if they're a parent of one of my students, they're supposed to stay out of the way. I don't like parents getting involved. I say, you know what? You just be the chauffeur. Let me do all the work with the kid. Let me have the relationship with the kid.
Oh.
Yeah. And a lot of them actually appreciate that. They say, great, you do all the work. So I like that because you know what? Most parents aren't trained in acting, and they don't know what to do.
Well, what if they don't? What if the kid doesn't have a coach? They're in another market, or they don't have? Then is the parent there to help them in some way?
In some way, if they can, but I would suggest finding someone professional in the industry. Because the other thing that I tell people that come here from different states,
yes,
I say it's this. I'm not saying this to take away any of the training you may have gotten somewhere else, but LA is a different audition animal. It's just different here. There are things you have to know in LA to audition that you might not have to know in Chicago or Miami. So that's what I'm here for. And I help, just like there are trends in fashion and hairstyles in LA, there are trends in acting. Right now, everything's very real, very natural, very understated. Play it from the eyes. So these are the things I work on with the kids.
Now, a lot of children are being cast because there's Nickelodeon and
Yes.
there's Disney and such.
That brings up a whole other issue,
What?
which is a lot of children don't understand the types of programming they're auditioning for.
But even though they watch those,
You'd be surprised. Children don't. I make my kids watch TV.
really, they don't
Yes.
watch?
They watch very few. They'll watch the very popular shows, and that's about it. So they'll get an audition for a single half-hour comedy. They don't know that style. They don't understand the style of a one-hour comedy. Then Disney and Nick is a whole different kind of audition animal. There's a different style of energy for that. So that's where I come in. I try to study all the shows, know who some of the casting directors are, and know what they're looking for.
So then another thing that parents could do who their kids are begging them to be in this business.
Watch TV.
Watch.
I tell them all the time, please watch TV.
And watch the
Please.
commercials, I would think.
Watch the commercials, and don't watch as a fan, watch as a student.
How do you do that?
That's a good question. Well, for example, last week in my teen class, I had kids watch certain half-hour comedy shows, and I had them listen for the setups and the jokes. Have them listen for beats, have them listen for timing. Some of the dramatic shows, I'll have them look for listening and reacting.
So the setup is the line that leads to the joke
To the
line, where
punchline,
the
right.
laugh will be.
Exactly.
And so there's almost a whole kind of language, and the way that you're talking. Of course, I could be talking to an adult acting coach, because the things that you're saying are what we have to do, and you as an actress, and that I have to do. So
Yes.
So
I don't think of myself as teaching children as much as I'm teaching actors. I don't talk down to my students ever. So I really do teach them like adult actors, except that because they are children, I try to nurture their souls. because they're growing up, they have problems at home, they're dealing with schoolwork. So we spend a little time talking about that. We spend time laughing and having fun, and then we get to the work. But kid actors, for the most part, the ones that love it, have it in perspective, because they're equally as excited about going to the beach, grandma coming to visit, and booking a job on a series. And that's why I love it so much.
So they're excited kids.
Very, yeah.
And lots of energy.
Lots of energy.
Yeah. Is there, what about the discipline of going on the set, and how do they learn that? That's the most adult place to be in the world. And
it doesn't come easily for all the kids. It really doesn't. It's something that if you work with me, you learn very quickly, because my classes are very regimented, very structured. I have a lot of rules. You have to do a lot of homework, and you have to act like a professional in my classes. So if you train with me, that's what I teach. I can't speak for every child out there.
Right. So on the set, because of course I coach on set, and have worked on many shows where we have children. Of course they didn't on Seinfeld, but and of course there has to always be someone on set watching the child. How do you advise the parents, or if they get a guardian to come on the set, how do you talk to them about making sure their child's safe?
Yes, well, they should always be aware of what's going on, but they should also try to stay out of the way as much as possible to find balance. But I also encourage parents, and I know it's not the popular vote these days, but I encourage parents to keep their integrity and not allow their children to do some of the projects that are out there right now with foul language and sexual situations. And I say take a stand. If you're very religious or you're very spiritual, you just don't want your child to do that, don't feel that you have to, that someone will be mad at you. Stand your ground.
Right.
They're children first.
Yes. And so the agent, will the agent tell the parent what the situation is that they're going to audition for? Let's say they are going for an hour dramatic show where children are molested, children are killed,
Not always. The sides come through the internet or over the fax to the parents very quickly, and I actually a couple of times have called someone and said, "Did you read this? Are you sure you want to do this?" And they'll say, "Thank you, I didn't read it." Everything happens so quickly, sometimes they don't read it, and they've thanked me and they've turned it down.
Yeah, yeah. So, but some kids will, all those jobs do get filled.
They do.
And it's the parent's responsibility.
Yes, it is.
Not the child's.
That's right.
Now, many times the child turns into the breadwinner of the family.
Yes.
Do you want to address that situation?
I don't have many of those, but I've seen it happen, and it can put an enormous amount of pressure on the child if it's up to them to book a job. And I go back to it should be fun. But it's hard. I know a mother who had to give up her job so her children could pursue this, because she has to be available 24/7 to drive her children around. So it does become a financial loss on the family, and you do hope to recoup some of it. So I see both sides, and when the kids are really passionate and really want to do it, the parents want to support them.
Right.
But they do need to make some money to put food on the table and pay for gas. Some of these parents live very far away. They're driving into LA 2, 3, 4 times a week.
Where do they live? Like Orange County?
They live in Orange County. They live in San Diego.
Oh,
I've had people drive into my classes on the weekend from Santa Barbara.
Really?
Yes, all over. You'd be surprised.
Wow, and it's because the child wants to do it.
Wants to do
so
it.
much. And it's just like if the child wanted to play sports and travel for the sports, the parents help with that too.
Right, but it's a big commitment. You could miss a family vacation because of a job. It's what I think I mentioned in your book, you could miss a birthday party. It's a big commitment, and you have to balance it. And some parents are really good about balancing it.
When do you know that it's not to do it, that it's
I think that's a personal decision. I will never tell anyone you can't make it. Who am I to say you can't pursue your dream? No one should do that to anyone, especially a child. It has to be a family decision. If you've been doing this for a year, 2 years, you're still not booking anything, you have to decide, is it still fun for you? Are you getting good feedback and it just hasn't hit, the timing hasn't been right, or you're not getting good feedback anymore and it's not as fun. It's work, it's an effort. If the work is outweighing the fun, rethink.
Yeah, oh good. Now, you work as an actress and
Right.
you also work as a voiceover actress. You
Right.
said you have an audition for a radio show. when
Right after
you
this, yes.
leave here. And I had thought, wrongly, that adult actors did the child voices.
No, you were not wrong. That used to be the way it is, the way it was. It used to be. That was very popular. And it still is to a certain extent, but nowadays they want real kids. They want real kids doing animation. They want real kids doing commercials.
Really?
Yes, this is a very good time to be a kid in voiceover.
And how?
And that's a different set of acting skills.
Yeah, well, yes.
That's a different set of acting skills. That's about acting with your voice, but you're still acting. And I get upset when people say it's not real acting. Oh, yes. And in some ways, it's so much harder because on an animation script, you don't have the benefit of having the other person feeding you lines. You're doing all those lines wild. In other words, you audition for a TV show or a film, the casting director's reading with you, right?
Right.
There's none of that in animation. So you have to have so much going on in your imagination.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yes. So it's a whole different set of skills and energy level, vocal quality.
So how are you auditioning? What is the audition?
For animation?
Yeah.
Well, there are lines that they take from the script, and
Yeah.
you just have to imagine what the other lines would be for the other character and react to it, and still do what I call effort sounds, you know, like if you're climbing up a mountain, you know, you'd still hear that. So there's a lot.
Also, you have to do that in voiceover.
There's a lot that goes into it. It's really fun, and I always think if you like comedy, especially, animation's great.
Wow. And so do you have to imagine what the animation character is, or do they show you a picture of that?
Sometimes they show you a picture, and sometimes they don't. Either way, you have to come up with a great character. But they love kids' natural voices.
Wow.
So kids usually don't have to change their voices as much as they have to bring their acting skills to the table.
And what about being clearly spoken?
Yes.
I mean, that for kids, so many times they slur their words.
They
and
do,
So
yes.
are there exercises to work on that?
There
or
are
how-
exercises. You could always work on tongue twisters. You can over-enunciate and practice at home. There are special speech coaches to go to. Some children do have a lisp that they're trying to get over, you know. So yes, that's something to be aware of, definitely.
So that would not be, if your child has a lisp, then that would not be the thing to do. And I would think that if the child is so passionate about wanting to be an actor and they're wearing braces, this would be the thing to do, is to go into the voiceover.
Definitely, and I've suggested that to a lot of teens that have a great, clear speaking voice and lots of energy and are naturally animated. And I've suggested that path, and I think they have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. And what about commercials? How is that? Are there a lot of kids on commercials now?
There are a lot of kids on commercials. That's changed as well. It used to be real cheesy and real big, and
Right.
even that's changed to more of the natural way of acting. What I say is a lot of my students book commercials, and it's not because I'm teaching them commercial training, it's because I'm making them stronger actors. They're taking their acting skills and they're bringing them into the commercial audition room, and I think that's why they're booking.
Wow. And so tell me about the kids business. Is that, how does one promote their children, or how do you get more work, or the student films like we do as adult actors? How do they get experience other than actually landing that network show?
Sure. Well, if they're just starting and they're not in the unions yet, yes, there's a ton of work they can get for themselves. Student films, they can go on some of these websites now that list student projects, some non-union projects, and start building up their resume, start getting some tape. And then hopefully they get an agent, they start getting these little couple of line parts, and then just like with adult actors, it builds up.
And the work permit, is that,
Yes.
how do they get their work permit? And is
I've
it
seen
difficult?
a lot of trouble with work permits. That's one of the things. I don't know much about it, but I know you have to have it or else you can't be sent on auditions. And your agent or manager will be extremely upset with you because this is a business. And if they get an audition for you and suddenly your work permit is not up to date and you're actually not legally, you shouldn't be there, then you're in a lot of trouble with everybody, casting, your agent, your manager. So parents have so much to do if they want their child to be in this business.
Right.
And they have to maintain, I think, a C average in school to get a work permit.
Right. And you get that through the state of California. So you can look that up where to get that. Do you think that they should get the work permit right away if they want to work as?
Well, I think that if you sign with an agent, they're going to want you to sign up, set up a special bank account, I believe a Jackie Coogan account.
Right.
And then get your work permit. So you have to do all of that right away, get your headshots taken by a professional photographer. If you get an agent tomorrow, it could be a month or two before you're out auditioning, just getting paperwork, depending on how fast you are with all of that.
I see.
You do have to take care of the business side of it.
Yeah. And thankfully, they're very careful about the children.
Thankfully, yes.
But I have been on set where the producers have asked the children to do something that I thought was a safety hazard.
Oh.
And I've seen parents step in and stop that.
That's
or
great.
do, one time it was with smoke.
Ooh.
And I was always glad that the parents, because as the dialogue coach, of course, I'm not going to be causing any trouble or saying anything, but
again, it goes back to the parents. It's a huge responsibility, it's a huge job commitment, it's a huge time commitment. It's really a big family decision if you're going to put your child in this business. No matter how much he or she wants it, it should be a family decision.
And do you have any recommendations of who they should designate to go on the set with the child if, say, both mother and father are really working and can't do that, or they have another child that they're taking to auditions
Right.
and they need to hire someone to go on the set?
I've seen that sometimes. A lot of times parents are fortunate enough that a grandparent can go. Sometimes a cousin, sometimes a babysitter or a nanny type person.
They have to be over 18.
They have to be over 18, yes. And they need to always be within sight or ear of the child. They need to be aware of what's happening with the child at all times.
Yeah, yeah. Now, what about when they take these 4x6 pictures that they're going to send out? What should they have the kids wearing, or how close up should the pictures be, or what?
Well, you have to listen to your agent. I think initially...
Well, let's say they don't have an agent.
Okay, initially, if you're trying to get an agent, I often say, don't spend any money doing professional pictures because the agent's going to have them redone.
Yeah.
So nowadays we have digital cameras. I say take a couple of different shots, a serious shot, a smiley shot, put them on one color piece of paper that you could take to your local copy store, put a letter on the back on the same page, and ship it off in a regular envelope. You don't have to spend a lot of money. And just make them look real and natural and themselves. No pressure, no looking perfect.
Oh, great. And what about when you take them in for the interview? Do you spiff them all up?
No.
No.
Don't spiff them up. Show the agent exactly who they are, because that really is what's going to sell them.
And is it a big problem for the kids? I mean, do you run across that they actually don't want to go into the office on their own?
Sometimes,
onto the interview.
The little ones, the problem with little kids is they could be having a bad day. They could have, woken up from a nap and they're in a cranky mood and they don't want to go in and they're screaming. And that's really tough. I've seen that. I've seen that, and you have to take the kid home and there goes the audition.
Ew.
Yep. So I always try to get them to come with me alone because, they need to get that practice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Is there a way that they could, I guess they could set that up maybe at one of their offices, or if they work in an office where they could have someone go in and talk, and just to get more practice on and having the child understand that
exactly.
That's what
and
they
I always
have
say
to
one
do.
thing, there are two things parents can do at home to help their kids. One is always have the child look you in the eye. Ask them how their day at school was and have them answer by looking you in the eye, because eye contact is extremely important in this business for meetings and for auditions. And the other thing is read out loud 10 minutes a day from books or magazines you don't know, and you'll become an excellent cold reader.
Really?
And I always know when somebody's been reading in their head, whether they're a new student or an old-time student. I'll say, "You've been reading in your head, haven't you?" And they'll say, "Yes." And you can tell because the words just aren't flowing.
I see. Oh, that's a very good.
It's free. You do it at home, you know.
Yeah. And should you read it to the parents so they can correct your...
You can, or you don't have to. And if you start getting really good and you notice that all your sentences are flowing, then you start looking up at the beginning of each sentence and you start making the eye contact. And it does wonders. It can take a child from here to there in cold reading. And then they come to me and I could really move through the scenes quickly.
So that's something that people not living in Los Angeles and living in other markets,
anyone can do it.
Right, because there is, in small local markets, there's commercials, there's voiceover,
That's right.
and so there...
And if they look for ads in magazines, it's written just like commercial copy. So that's how they can practice commercials.
Oh, great, great. Oh, that's good.
So
we're getting close to the end of the show. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that you felt that kids should know, or the parents should know?
Again, I just think it takes a real commitment and dedication and passion. And if you love this, I say go for it. I also say have other interests. They're still kids. Go play ball. Go to the mall with your friends. Have a real life. One of the things casting directors love when they meet kids is when kids talk about a birthday party or their summer vacation. They want to see real kids who have a balanced life.
Oh.
And have a good support system around you. Don't get into gossiping. I have one rule at theatrical auditions, meaning TV and film auditions. Don't talk to any other parents in the waiting room. Don't talk to any of the other students, actors auditioning. Don't talk to any of the parents.
Oh, good. Well, I want to thank Tracy Martin for being with me. We're going to continue talking, but I want to say thank you, and thank you for watching, and keep on watching.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome. So that's really good not to talk to anyone.
Yes, I tell
because the kids want to they're attracted to each other and want to see.
Yes, and also what people don't realize is there are a lot of mind games that go on. The parents will suddenly say, well, let me see your resume. Oh, you know, all of a sudden, before your child goes in, both of you are feeling like you lost the job. Because they'll talk down your agent or the jobs you've had, and lots of mind games. You just, is that what you're wearing? You know, things like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it happens even in the kids' business. So, and I say, if you need to blame someone, tell them your coach won't let you speak to anybody in the audition. Blame me. I don't care. Stay to yourself.
Yeah. And that's so good.
But again, I want them to feel empowered. I want them to be the best they can be.
Right, right.
Last thing I do before, right before I let somebody go at the end of